What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, though? We got a special episode today because I'm on camera. You know, usually, if you listen to this on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, but YouTube, I know you happy because you get a video version. Twitter, you're going to be happy because you're going to see the video version. Wahoo fans, got a special show, man. I got a former first-team All-American, All-ACC. They call me the ball hawk, but he's a true ball hawk. Played in the NFL. Was a ball hawk in the NFL. He actually was tied for first in the NFL in interceptions. How many podcast hosts can say, yo, I had somebody who led the entire National Football League in interceptions? He went undrafted too. That ain't heard of. He should have went drafted. He from Richmond, Virginia. So he a VA guy. 804. Went to L.C. Bird, Lloyd C. Bird. I never said Lloyd until, I just started going to Richmond more. We all just call it LC, but it's Lloyd C. Bird High School. Former quarterback, receiver, just a utility guy in high school. Got to UVA, was a free safety. He was just everywhere, man. And then he was the mentor to another former great UVA safety in Quinn Blandon. But without further ado, I'm gonna start talking y'all head off. Oh, before we get started, make sure y'all realize this episode is sponsored by Aber Insurance. Go to aberinsurance.net for all your insurance needs. Home business, auto, life insurance. The great people at Able. Make sure you subscribe on any podcast platform you listen to right now. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Make sure you leave a review. If you go on Apple Podcasts, whether it's 1 star or 5 star, I'm still a damn star. It's like the Cowboys. Y'all, hey, they get smashed, but they still got a star on the side of their helmet. But without further ado, get my man, Anthony Harris, on the screen, Wahoo fans. All-American, number 8. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Big dog, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I haven't seen you in person since Miami last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
been
a
game.
while.
Yeah,
Yep.
man.
Yep, it's been a while. A lot of things continue to move on since the last time we met, but I'm sure we'll meet soon as I'll be down in Charlottesville to catch some more games.
Yeah, you know what's ironic? So leading up to me interviewing you one-on-one formally, because we talk, but I do research, and one of my young guys that I helped mentor, you said in the interview, inspire you to give back in Richmond. That was Billy McMullen.
Mm-hmm.
What's your relationship like with Billy Mack, man?
Man, Billy is he's been a great mentor. Sometimes you just come across people and right away the impact that they're gonna have on your life, and you kind of already have that relationship established, since a young kid or sometimes. But for me, the first time I met Billy was in middle school. He came. I was going to Elkhart Middle School. He came as a guest speaker, and he shared a lot of great messages, about, how to handle things in life, having big dreams. And the one thing I wanted to do was try to make it to the NFL. And so for him to come back, be standing there, somebody who lived out something that I wanted to do, I immediately locked in and just started listening to everything that he was saying. And he was mainly just talking about, continuing to believe in yourself. And even when other people don't believe in you. And so that kind of started, that sparked something in me. And from that point on, I just had that belief that, I can accomplish whatever I wanted to do if I, continue to work at it each day. And, a little further down the line, I go to UVA, and I didn't find out till later that he actually attended UVA. So it's kind of one of those things where it all kind of came full circle. I look back at my career, the time in Minnesota to the time in Philly, and there's always been some association there with, some of his path too as well. But he's helped a lot in terms of, just talking about mindset. And obviously now, as I continue to transition, talking about, life after football and what's next and different things that matter. So he's been a great support.
No doubt, man, because you think about it. So he's from the Richmond area. You're from the Richmond area. Both of you attended the University of Virginia. He got drafted originally by the Philadelphia Eagles. You end up playing the season for the Philadelphia Eagles. He played one season for Minnesota. You played majority of your career for Minnesota. Then he played multiple seasons for the Eagles. You played your one season with the Eagles, which is that let you know, man, the universe don't make mistakes, man.
Yeah. Yep. So man, that right there, just him sharing that bit of information back then, and other individuals for sure, it definitely sparked me to continue to be one of those guys. And even if my time at UVA, there were multiple other people, multiple other alumni, guys like yourself, Coach Dex, who was obviously a coach, but still wore that orange and blue and them sabers on the helmet. For him to share his mindset, and for you all guys to share your mindset, how you approach the game, and different things, like even like Wally Rainey coming back, attending a lot of games and talking life principles as well. It just made me, want to come back and want to be able to help other guys coming up down the ranks.
While you were at LC Bird in Richmond, when did you make a decision, or when did you have that epiphany? Like, man, I could possibly go to school for free playing this sport.
I think I started to see glimpses early on in middle school. I was doing traveling basketball, putting a lot of time in there in the gym, going to different tournaments. And as I got the exposure and I got to see, kids from all across the country and compete at that level, it gave me an opportunity to kind of see where I matched up with everybody, and it was kind of one of those things where I was able to realize, as I continued to work, I continued to get better. And those same individuals that I competed against year after year at different big tournaments, I could see the gap starting to close in terms of guys who had been, playing the game a lot longer than me. And I could see the progression. And so from there, I started to understand more of, if you put the work in, you work at it, you got an opportunity to separate yourself, and regardless of whatever you do. But for football, when I started back playing football in 10th grade, because I didn't play, I focused on basketball in 9th grade, and I saw the colleges come in, and I saw a jump from, University of Delaware, kind of some of those other smaller D1 AA schools, to then have an explosive junior year. And seeing the shift from those schools, somewhat not interested, and not because they didn't want me, but because they had a sense of maybe I wouldn't want to attend the university. And so seeing other bigger schools coming in like UVA, Clemson, a lot of schools in the ACC, SEC, that's when I started to really realize that things were getting serious. And that as long as I continued to do what I needed to do on the field, in the classroom, things would kind of take care of themselves.
Now that's dope. And what I always find refreshing, though, because a lot of times when you look at different positions, right, you play some quarterback in high school. You basically play quarterback and defensive back, 2-time All-State representative at defensive back. But anytime you look at like a top flight safety, majority of them are former like high school quarterbacks. Like Cub went to the NFL as a safety. He's a former high school quarterback. Dex was a former high school quarterback. It's more to the list that I can add. Is like former high school quarterbacks that made the transition to safety. What do you feel like helps, from like being a former quarterback moving to safety helped you the most?
I think when you play quarterback, you kind of have a different level of coaching. And you start to build a different level of understanding. From the quarterback position, understanding pass protections. Maybe you didn't have to do that a ton in high school, but just understanding different run schemes, understanding different pass concepts, understanding the bigger picture of timing, understanding, knowing where everybody is supposed to be, and being able to tell guys, through the play call or on the field, what some of their assignments are if they need to change. So I think that having that relationship with your coach and kind of teaching you that to be able to run a full system and think of it from a unit and not just the individual position, it kind of sets a good foundation for how you continue to learn things within the game. And so transferring the defense is obviously, as a quarterback, you understand a little bit of, coverages from a secondary standpoint, from a linebacker standpoint. And so when you transition, the understanding of those things are things that you learn, but on the back end, you've already experienced and you've already felt, what a quarterback timeline and clock in their head feels like within a play. So I think all of those things build out a natural feel if you know been able to go through some of that at quarterback.
Well, who was your main point of contact during your recruiting process as far as UVA? Who's the person that recruited you?
Coach London was there a good bit, and then Coach Reed, Coach Jim Reed, that personality, him, Coach Hansen would come in, Poindexter, Coach Chip West. For me, I think it was just like a committee of people, and each having different backgrounds. You know, Coach Reed being an NFL guy and some pedigree and working at an extremely high level. Having Coach Dex, you know, a former UVA player on the coaching staff, Coach West, his ties down to Virginia Beach, recruited me as well. And me also building a relationship with those guys. I think that was something that kind of also really brought it together is, you know, not just being a player who's being recruited, but also having a relationship and bridge with the other guys who are looking to come in as well.
When did you learn that Coach Anthony Poindexter was really that guy when he played?
It wasn't until honestly I got there, and I mean I had a sense of it. You know, I had a sense of it from the recruiting aspect. But until you get there, you in the room with them. You know, you talking about scheme. He's coaching some of the smallest details. You know, he's telling me what, you know, a kick step is, what right tackle, what a down block looked like, what a hinge, when he stepped down the hinge, what that mean. The level of coaching that I was getting, I just soaked it up. You know, I just soaked it up. But once he cut on some of that old tape, you know, and we got into, you know, some really competitive games and we go into a film review and the passion starts coming out, you can see that it really meant something to him, and not just the game, but you know, to be at that university, to be part of continuing to build the program and uplift other players there, you could tell it was something special and it really meant a lot to him.
Yeah, the one thing that I always like to ask the players that he was a part of their, you know, recruiting is like, was it like an uncle or a parent or just somebody in the building? Like, do you know who that is? And because a lot of times you really don't. Like you so worry about your own path unless you just been a part of it at a young age. Like we have some players who were just fans of UVA, so they knew who Dex was before they even stepped on the campus. But I always like to ask guys, like, when did they realize like he was really, because Dex is humble. So you might just be walking, or you might look through the media guy and you start like, hold on, that's Coach Dex. Hold on, that's Coach Dex again. Hold on, Coach Dex up on the wall right there. Coach, he was All-American, because he not gonna tell you. You know, and leave it up to him. He'll just say I was pretty decent. You know, I did my job. I had my fun. You know? So I always like to ask that question. But when you got on campus, man, what's the one thing about the University of Virginia that surprised you? Just the campus, not the football life, but just the student life.
I mean, honestly, when I got to UVA, I really didn't know what to expect. You know, I really didn't. You know, you go to college for the first time and people say, you know, it's going to be the greatest 4 years of your life. And the commitment to football and all of those things. I really had no expectations of what it would be like. You know, I just tried to take advantage of the opportunity and just engulf myself into the environment. And I did that. But I just remember walking down the line and just kind of looking back at the history of that, walking around campus. It was one of those things where I can't even really explain, you know, the feeling that I had. It just was, I was there for, you know, to go to school, play football at a high level. I wanted to network with people, and UVA gave me the opportunity to do that. It gave me an opportunity to step outside my comfort zone. And I think, you know, UVA really, that experience there, not only as a player, but as a student, you know, it gave me an opportunity to prepare myself for, you know, the real world, you know, you know, having to come into an environment, having to network, you know, obviously being on a football team, you know, it gave me an opportunity to, you know, meet people or people wanting to meet me for the first time. and start a real genuine connection once we got to know each other. And that's what I've been able to do now in terms of, playing in NFL, transitioning from, the athletic world into the business world as well. That whole UVA experience has kind of set me up for that.
Yeah, and when you got there, I mean, you played as a true freshman and as a reserve role. When you got to that first spring, you go through your first spring practice. When did you get an inkling that you'll probably be the starter? Was it after the spring, or was it as you was going through fall camp?
I mean, honestly, from me getting there to my as a first year, I was just locked in. Trying to learn from guys. I had Rodney McLeod.
Yep.
Big shout out to Rodney. Veteran safety there. Corey Mosley there. Two veteran guys. Two different type of players, but a lot of experience and good leaders and good veterans. So I learned a lot from those guys between training camp, the playbook, and I started making some plays earlier, and just and understanding and seeing the game that I felt pretty comfortable. And as the season progressed, I started to get an itching of I'm making some plays. I want to see if I can go out there and do it at a consistent level as soon as possible. So I started to get that itch early. Going into second year, I really wasn't focused on being a starter. That wasn't really a thought of mine. For me, it was just about getting better. I wanted to learn the defense, know what the guys around me were doing, so I can play at a high level, so I can help communicate with guys and try to put us in the best position possible. So, quite honestly, I never really thought much about whether I was going to be a starter or not going into my second year. It was just about trying to get better and continue to build.
No, that's actually dope, because a lot of times you talk to somebody like, man, I want to start, but the fact that you're building that foundation of understanding conceptually the entire defense. You talk about Dex. A lot of fans probably didn't pick up when you were talking about kick stepping for offensive lineman. That, like, a lot of times as a safety, you get so enamored with the passing game, but that's like an inside jewel. Like, bro, that's a key right there. That's a read. Like, you a step ahead if you understand their techniques.
Yeah.
And that's why Dex was so special, being his teammate for 2 seasons. I just got to see in the practice, like, he would just react so much faster than, between him and Wally, they would react so fast before the ball snapped. It was like, how he coming at the line of scrimmage before the ball even snapped?
Yep.
Just like whether it's formation, down the distance, where the ball is at. I mean, they just knew. But, looking at your career at UVA, had a lot of talent on defense. Like, when you look at that roster, you got yourself, you got Max Vallis, you got my man Henry Coley, Eli Harold. Who else was on that defense?
We had a lot of players. We had Trey outside. We had
Chase was there too, right?
Yeah, Chase was there my first year.
Okay, your first year, yeah.
He was there my first year. So, I mean, I felt like we've always had, talented players. Some years better than others, spotty in certain positions. And, we were just trying to find a way to put it all together. But we definitely had a lot of talent. So, that's what I'm excited about now. UVA current football is, we're starting to get that talent at a consistent level. We have a lot of young players. The coaches has continued to develop the players.
Yeah.
And so that's what I like to see and continue to build, is just the guys that you have, continue to develop those guys, and those guys doing the work to aid in their progression to be able to be the player that, we see that they could be in the future. So that's all been big things. But those teams were definitely talented.
I mean, you talk about this current regime, right? Looking at the safeties, they got 2 strong safeties. Antonio missed last game, Antonio Clary. But then Jonas Sanker was all ACC last year. When you see those 2 guys, man, you played the position. What jumps out to you starting with like Jonas Sanker?
Man, it's a beautiful thing to see. As a former alumni, guy who came through and played and had some success there, you look back at the Audemars, you always want that. You play at the highest level, and you see other schools put out talent, but you understand where you came from, the ability that you had, and you understand that the guys coming up behind you, have just some of the some good ability as well. And so for guys to go out, play at a high level, and get the recognition, I'm excited for it. I watch him on Saturdays and check out the games. He's making tackles. He has a level of anticipation. So I'm not sure if he's getting those pre-snap tips, but you can tell he has to understand some of the technique that some of the guys on offenses are using, that are indicators on what plays could be coming pre-snap, as well as soon as the ball snaps, getting those quick reads, because he's coming downhill quickly. He's been really good at open field tackling. I see him communicating, across the back end, what the coverage is and stuff like that. So he's definitely a guy who's helping lead that secondary back there. And he's making plays too. I just seen him last week. Third down, had a big stop. He read it. Guy hit a little pivot move. He did a good job of, getting around the offensive player and getting the pass break up. And I said to myself, that's a great play.
Yeah, because the one thing I always appreciate about Jonas and Antonio Clary, like both of those guys are interchangeable. I felt like you're a safety that's interchangeable safety. Like you're just not a middle of the field safety. Like you're a safety that could come down, somebody running mesh routes, you could attach yourself, get through the wash, run support. You was always very solid. And then the icing on the cake is being able to track the football. But a lot of times they like to put a player in the box. I just feel like with both of those safeties that we have, it was similar to like when Quinn came in with you. It was like you got two, and like I would like to say a lot of the times our safeties, we might, I mean, I don't want to throw them about it, but we might have like one guy who wasn't interchangeable in the past couple of years. But majority of the safeties, the coaching staff has done a great job, as you saying, developing the talent to be flexible.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because we like to, a lot of times you like to bring the safety down in the boundary now, but they flip formation. You got to rotate them. You don't want that guy just showing his hand and going across.
Yeah.
If you can just rotate them, they don't know if you man or if you just flipping your the strength of your defense. So yeah, man, I really like that. But I do want to talk about the special season you had at UVA, which was 2013, when you led the nation in picks. And even though the team was 2-10, I'm gonna ask this because a lot of times people just think we just selfish. Could you really enjoy your success even though the team was 2-10?
No, I couldn't really enjoy it. I couldn't really enjoy it, like I wanted to. The individual plays and those things, they're all great. I think the time when you can really enjoy some of that, it's kind of in the moment of when it happens in the game. You go on forth in the back and forth game, whether it's the beginning, the end, or whatever. You make a big play, you're just thinking about the opportunity that it's going to give your team to win a game. So I think, in the moments of catching the interception, running it, celebrating with teams, celebrating the individual, the preparation, because behind the scenes, I put in a lot of work to try to put myself in a position to even, have some of those opportunities. But majority of the focus was really on, I just made a big play. If we can go down and convert on this, it's going to give us an opportunity to win the game. So those moments were great. But to walk back in the locker room, I guess, 10 times without having, coming in with the win, it definitely put a damper on kind of, what happened, as a player who wants to win, who tries to do what he can to help his team win. I could just find myself sometimes thinking about that one tackle that I missed versus the interception that I had, and what the impact of that play could have been. If I would have tackled him 2 yards shorter, maybe it would have been, 3rd and 4 versus 3rd and 2. So that's kind of some of the things that, I went through in terms of battling some of those, bigger plays versus what the team was on work.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. It's just one of them things where, like, you do your job, and as you stated, like you may have that success as far as the box score, because a lot of times as you get removed from the game and you start to interact with our fans and you start to break down the game, box scores can dominate like the narrative. So if they see like you know, oh, Ant got 2 interceptions, Ant balled out, but like you said, we might be thinking about, man, I missed 2 tackles. You know what I'm saying? Or I didn't get over the top on cover 2 right there. Now outside release, I didn't get off the hash and they hit it in the dare area. So a lot of times the vision, like how we see the game, is going to be totally different. And a lot of times players come off as haters when you transition to this role talking behind the mic, because you're talking as a former player. It's like, no, they really didn't have a good game. Like statistically, they had a very good game. But when you look at what happened on film, it's like he struggled.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's just kind of somewhat of the technical side. And you know, and I guess nowadays we have the PFF ratings and things of that sort. And so, you know, your PFF grade, you know, sometimes it can vary. You know, you can have somebody who didn't have a lot of splash plays, but they had a very sound game in terms of, you know, being where they're supposed to be and making the plays that they're supposed to make. So, and that's the game within the game, schematically. Getting some of your better players in position to make those impact plays. And it might not necessarily be a stat that's going to show up in the box score, but if you watch the film, you watch the game, you know, you see a guy making a good read coming up for making a nice tackle for a third down stop. And those are the plays that, you know, they don't show up in the box score. It just goes in as a tackle. But, you know, to have a third or fourth down stop in a key situation is how you can impact the game.
No, absolutely, man. And I'm always transparent. Like, it's a lot of times where as a defensive back, you had the success of, you know, getting the interception, right? But a pass rush could have got you that pick. It's not taken away from you being in position. Like, you still had to be in position, but like you said, it's that stat that won't show up. It was a QB pressure. It could be just getting a hit on them. You know what I'm saying? It could be buzzing underneath and causing the throw to go up a little bit higher. You know what I'm saying? So it's that game within the game where it takes the teammate to say, hey, man, I know I have these stats that you can see, but I got to share that without that. Because we can't cover all day, man. If you give us a choice, hey, go get home, brother. Get home up front.
Rushing cover is definitely key. You know, there's going to be some 50-50 balls that the offense may give you, but also, you know, having that pass rush, it creates another level of opportunity. You know, those 50-50 balls that the quarterback doesn't want to throw and maybe not normally throw, you know, they become an opportunity for you. You know, it's either take a sack, throw it away, or give your guy an opportunity to you know, to try to make a play. And so a lot of times in my career, you know, I'd had to highlight those guys. You know, obviously I can do my own homework pre-snap and understanding where they may go with the ball and understanding where I fit in the defense and when I can take an opportunity and when I can't. But the one thing I can't control is whether the quarterback throws it. But the one thing that helps is him having a little pressure on him to make him having to make that split decision on timing in the play, whether he can double clutch and give an opportunity to, you know, shake free or change his route a little bit on the fly. Those are all things that come up and impact the game.
Yeah, man, because, you know, like Eli, I think the season you had, you led the nation in picks, we had 8. I think he had 8.5 sacks. Wholly from his linebacker position when them A-dogs would get back there. The following year, he had 8.5 sacks from middle linebacker. Max was a guy that a lot of times he wouldn't get home, but, you know, quarterback knew he was tracking him down. I mean, I've seen you make various type of interceptions, whether it's, you know, it's a tip ball, whether you go high point the ball in the field. One of the most impressive ones I've seen you make that a lot of people, you know, like when you're watching the game, you don't appreciate them. When y'all play pit at pit and you just pedaled off the hash, but you stayed square. You just weed pedal. And the quarterback just, you looking at him the whole time, like, and boy is buoyed up the sideline, they top receiver.
Honey hole.
Yeah, he was like, oh, he's gonna try to fit it in the dead zone. And your pedal as you was pedaling, I'm like, he ready to come downhill. Like the whole time, like were there fronts or cover schemes once you saw the formation where you had an inkling, like, yo, I probably get my hands on the ball right here.
That honestly, I recall sitting in the locker room in McHugh, week in and week out. We would have our scouting reports on the different routes, and I had gotten to a point where I understood where I was going to be on the field in certain calls and certain coverages, and I could honestly, kind of circle where they were attacking on the field. And so certain plays I understood when I lined up where I was supposed to be, and I had the route concepts down packed to where certain formations I kind of knew the QB's progression.
Yeah.
And so though I would go into the game knowing I would have an opportunity at some point in the game to be around the ball. It may not be an interception. It may just come down as a key third down where, I have to come up and make a tackle. And so we had some different coverages. I think one of my favorite was a middle cross dog blitz where I would drop down from the safety into the middle hook. And we had a nice stunt, where the defensive end, the outside defensive end would come in and loop in the middle and be right in the quarterback face. And so for me, I just knew that, in that situation, I'd be somewhere near the middle field, and that the quarterback's clock would be ticking. So I just try to take advantage of that. And, hopefully I was able to put myself in a position to maybe not have an interception, but to maybe make that quarterback hold it just a little bit for us to get a sack. And so, I always thank those guys for what they were able to do in terms of creating pressure, as well as the defensive coordinator for drawing up different schemes that helped add to that.
Yeah, man, I always, it's always good when coaches can identify the talent that they have on defense and scheme towards the talent versus making the talent fit within a scheme, like being fluid, like understanding, like, all right, I have a safety who could do this. I got a corner who's better at man, or this corner's better at zone. So in certain situations, let me play to their strength. You know what I'm saying? I know I got guys who can hunt. Let me run the game up front. Let those guys in the back end know, hey, we're running the game, so understand the clock going to be different. Like you said, just understanding schematically what you're trying to do. And I think you said something that was key, knowing where the weakness is at with those calls. I think that's always important. Not just worry about your position, but within each call, a weakness is somewhere. And if you know where the weakness is at, you can anticipate. And that's when you make a lot of your plays, when you being a football player, not a robot. Because a lot of times, when you're young, you just want to make sure you do what you're supposed
to do. Yeah.
And you see a threat you see the threat, and they're going to get the ball. You're like, no, I'm going to cover my man. And coach will stop and be like, hey, son, be a football player, not a robot. Like, I ain't going to give you a minus for taking away the threat. Yeah. That's the most dangerous. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, that was big. I think that was something that I definitely, I think quarterback understanding that, and like I said, understanding progressions, and then being able to see at quarterback who's being a robot and who's being a ball player. And I think that's what allowed me to understand before going into games if I was having an opportunity to make a play. Understanding, is this a quarterback who's going to take an opportunity on those 50-50 throws, who's going to try to fit it in there? Am I playing a guy who's just going to go with the progression like the coach says? And if I'm able to pick up on, how the offensive coordinator is calling the game, when he likes to call certain routes, what formations that are coming up, and what route concepts are coming out of those, that's when I can kind of, play a little bit faster and understand where the weaknesses are. And then understanding my teammates, understanding, what their abilities are, and versus the offensive matchups that they have, and, who's likely to win some, and be able to try to close down those windows as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you probably two more UVA questions. We're going to transition to NFL, because you talked about McLeod when your first year, basically mentoring you watching how he approached the game. I always felt like that's important, because it's always like passing under the torch. Like when Anthony Poindexter and Adrian Berner was leaving, you had guys like Jerton Evans, Shenard Newby, and Chris Williams like taking the reins, like the torch was passed from you. I mean, from McLeod went to you, and then your last year, you had a special safety come in that was able to play his first year alongside you. I was a mentor, Quinn Blandon, his first year, your last year, when you were just coming off being a first team All-American and leading the country in picks.
I mean, it was cool. It was good. I think having Quinn came in or whatever, it kind of represented the continued growth that we were having. From having a pretty deep recruiting class to my year to, the following year, and even years after that, continue to stack those classes. I think it gave light of one of the reasons why I came there was to be part of building something. And even though I had individual success, or in the years leading up to that, we didn't have as successful seasons as we would hope. To continue to have those guys to come up and show the commitment, bring their level of talent to UVA, it was a reminder that we were still building.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was just about taking great pride in allowing and aiding in him to be able to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish when I was there. And that was coming in, playing as a freshman, having an opportunity to make some plays. And so I wanted that success for him, because that's something that I wanted as a first year. But also I knew aiding in his development would only help us, and as it got later in the season, as I realized, more and more of, I am now leaving, it's about passing the legacy back on, leaving him with all the tools for him to be successful as an individual, for him to be successful as a student at the university, as a veteran player who's going to be taking over the reins and helping continue to build the program.
Now that's dope. So your last year was that the year we went down to Tech? That was the year Mike pushed the quarterback and got the flag, was it?
I think it might have been.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I think one of the last years the last couple times we played them, it was close games. I think my last year we actually played them at Tech, and they had a game-winning drive. Unfortunately, actually caught the ball on me. So that's one thing that still haunts me to this day. Being there, having a lot of success, but not bringing back that Commonwealth Cup.
Yeah.
So that's something that I definitely continue to applaud guys for, as they continue to work towards that, looking to continue to build that and make it a staple where it lives in Charlottesville. And so that's the type of message that I like to share when I talk to guys. It's about setting a mindset of high legacy and high expectations for yourself.
Yeah, man.
So that's it. It's just like, set those high expectations for yourself. That's what I did for me as an individual player, and I was able to obtain it. But the power in having, whether it's 100 guys on the roster, including scholarship and non-scholarship, having those guys who have that desire and the mindset that I'm going to be part of something legendary and something special, and that it can actually start with me. I think that's big. So, I'm excited about, what UVA is doing right now. And them continuing to build, continue to invest in the program. I know we have the new facility and things like that, but continue to give guys the tools to help facilitate that mindset, and guys having that mindset and facilitating it themselves, and it's showing up on Saturdays or whenever they play.
Yeah, that defense that year, like the names, I'll just read a couple names from that last year. It was Quinn, Day was on that team, David Dean, yourself, Max Vallis, Henry Coley, Eli Harrell, Maurice Kennedy, Tim Harris, Mike Moore, Dante Wilkins, Micah Kaiser, who was young, Andrew was young, Vincent, Draquan Hosky. Like, that's a lot of pros. Like, that's what's so amazing, man. Like, that, winning that game makes you bowl eligible, end up 5-7 that year. But you said it, like, the recruiting classes continue to stack that talent. What do you think is the hardest thing when you have the talent to help it produce wins. So sometimes people look at recruiting class, they think the recruiting class is not strong, and then the team may do well, and then you have a lot of guys with a lot of stars beside their names, and the wins don't add up. What do you think is like the biggest hurdle for just our program getting back to consistently winning?
I think from my time at doing it at the NFL level, there's a lot of teams with a lot of talent, and so having guys being able to gel, I think is key, and that can go from a number of levels to the position group gelling well, communication from that standpoint, to having a whole defensive unit that's really playing at a high level and everybody's on the same page. But something's not quite right with the offense. And so from top to bottom, there has to be a level of connection. There has to be a level of understanding and sharing the knowledge. There has to be the same level of understanding the sacrifice of, I have a hard down this down. This play may be built for you to succeed, but it's going to put a lot of pressure on me. But being okay with that, because understanding that it's for the greater good and the success of the team. And so I think as you can continue to get guys, who carry a strong mindset and being very resilient, continuing to battle against, the outside noise of, what fans' expectations are, to continue to take on the hard coaching and understanding that it's to pitch you in oh, hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
See, this when Dad duty got to come in hand.
Yeah, no, you good, man. We kid friendly here.
Fans out there.
Yeah, we kid friendly, man.
Yeah, cause she and that's it. It's a little pressure, but we just adjust. But I think that's the biggest thing. And I think from that year we had a lot of defensive guys, and I can say we asked any of those guys, we thought we were one of the best defenses in the country.
Absolutely. I'm
not sure where it paired up statistically, but that's just what we felt like. We felt like we were very dominant. We felt like we had a lot of talent, and I often say, we felt like we were really underrated. For what we were able to do. Now, as a team, we couldn't quite bring it together. We couldn't quite score enough points in certain situations, or we might give up a play here and there, but. Once you get those things flowing, like take a look at Kansas City and what they're able to do. You can win some games when one side of the ball isn't playing well, but to win at a consistent level, offense, defense, and special teams, you have to be able to show up and impact the game.
So now that your career is over, you could have you ever shared when you hurt your shoulder that year?
Shoulder injury?
Yeah. So because look. I done had an AC joint. I ain't never had no torn labrum. So playing through a torn labrum is not easy. So how was it early in the season? You ain't gotta give me no exact date, but was it early in the season? Did it happen late in the season? But you played through it.
Yep. I played through it. I actually think I had did something a little bit minor to it late in my junior season. But it wasn't to the point I felt a little bit of discomfort, but the severity I don't think was really significant. But for me, I remember it started pretty early when I actually did most of the damage. I think it might have even been like week 2 or something. We were playing like BYU or something.
That's when you had the block punt in the rain.
Yeah. No, my senior year.
Okay.
I had my junior year. I had that block punt. And then I ended up pitching it to Henry. Man, that was one of the most. I can't even to just. I've imagined myself getting interceptions, but to block a punt, that was something that I had never foreseen being able to, for me to do. But when I did it, I was extremely excited. But for the shoulder injury, it happened like the second game my senior year against BYU, and I knew it was bad because my shoulder would go numb sometimes from a tackle. It would almost be like I pinched a nerve. But I mean, it was tough. I wasn't the biggest of guy in terms of frame, but in terms of physicality, being a short tackler, wrapping up, and things of that. I felt like it kind of limited me with being able to go in with force and to secure the tackle, and sometimes it would kind of go out a little bit.
Bro, you had 108 tackles that year.
Yeah.
I mean, that puts it in perspective. Like basically one shoulder. Is you like I always joke they give us the Cavalier cure. Like I know you got the ibuprofen pills and things like this. It's medicine you could take, but then sooner or later your body starts rejecting it because it builds up it calluses from it. Like it builds up the tolerance to where it's like it wants more, and they're not going to give you more than that dosage. So the fact that you were still out there playing at a high level with basically one arm, when did you was it the draft when you was going through their doctor, you learned you had to have surgery, or was it prior to that where you had the surgery?
I knew during the season, I look and you can look up. Yeah, I may have had 100 tackles or so, but I feel as though like my technique and the quality of some of my tackles, I just knew I had better in me. To having the shoulder harness to kind of keep my shoulder from going in certain ranges, I felt the limitation. From trying to get an interception, you going up, this arm's extended, this one's here. I mean, I was able to kind of play around it, but I think, it definitely kind of shows up at some point in the game, especially over a long period of time. But I knew immediately after the season that was something that I could not go into the NFL and play at a high level, particularly, being a short tackler. I knew that was something that I needed to get done.
Yeah, you go through the draft process. You end up, learning firsthand the business side of they know they could get you for cheap now. I think it was like 15 safeties taken in that draft. I ain't gonna name their names, but it's it just lets you know that you have this injury and they diminish your value because they're like, well, we can get him for free because he gonna be rehabbing. But the Vikings, they consider you the one thing I can say, like Bucky Brooks and those guys had you rated as one of the top safeties. And then when you didn't get drafted, you were immediately tagged as the top undrafted free agent that was available. The Vikings grab you. You come to camp. How was that camp for you, understanding that you're not an invested guy? Because draft guys are vested to where it's like you get grace. Undrafted, I was an undrafted guy myself. You fighting, brother. Every rep, you might get 3. So how was that camp for you, man? Because you very decorated coming out of college and you got a lot of ability. You just had an injury. But in their mind, they still, from the scouts' mind, they still approaching you like you're an undrafted guy. They know you have the talent. I just want to let the fans know, yes, Ant still has the draftable, high draft, 3rd round, 2nd round talent, but he's viewed as the undrafted guy. He's not vested.
Yeah.
So how was that camp for you?
I think once I got the surgery, my mindset was just get back healthy. Get back healthy and get back to work. That was my mindset. I think I understood and I was realistic and honest with myself about who I was as a player and the situation that I was in. And that's one thing that I believe in. There can't be progress or growth without truth. And so for me, my truth was, I was a talented player coming out. I had the ability to go out and make plays at a high level. And I just understood it as in, like, if I can get myself healthy, the talent's still there. The mindset's still there. And so I saw myself as a player who carried a strong mindset that would, show up in my workout, show up in my preparation. And from a longevity standpoint, with only a matter of time, I could get back to the player that I was and continue to progress and develop my game. So when I approached it, it was just about, I'm a good player who just, got hurt. And with unfortunate timing, wasn't able to perform at the draft combine. You know, to see some of those guys go out there and make history. And with Byron Jones came out and reset the NFL combine that year with the broad jump. So to see guys come up, show out, show their physical ability, I knew where my love for the game was. I knew what my IQ was. I knew what my athletic ability was. I just knew that it couldn't be measured in those moments because I was hurt. So that was the main thing that I hung on to. And, you know, I actually embraced the idea that I'm walking around and I'm a very talented player. But yet, you know, there are people who share the locker room with me who may not know that. You know, they just understand me as the undrafted guy. They don't understand. They don't know why, but they just view me as undrafted. And so the expectation for me isn't very high. And for me, that was kind of something that I just held on to and, you know, kind of smiled inside. And it was just kind of like, don't worry, you know, I'll continue to do the work. And if I get the opportunity, I'll show you.
And, you know, you go through camp, you end up, the Grim Reaper end up coming to see you, but you signed to the practice squad, elevated to the active roster December 8th. Mm-hmm. What does December 10th, 2015 mean to you?
It means a lot. It meant a lot to me. I thought early on that guys saw me, and I appreciated it. From a veteran standpoint, looking back, there were a lot of veteran guys who, some of which kind of, you know, mentioned you had this amount of interceptions while in college. Yeah. You know, it was a few guys who understood, you know, kind of the position that I was in, and they aided me. And, you know, I make a pass breakup. They're like, hey, a starter would have picked that. That was a good play, but that was a good play, but a starter, like a real starter, like a guy who's a playmaker. You know, not to say the guys who don't start don't make plays, because they do, but I think that there's levels to, you know, a starter and perform at extremely high level. Guys kind of set that expectation. And so I had a coach who prepared me, Coach Jerry Gray. Big shout out to him. Played a lot of ball, reminded me a lot of Dex in a sense of a guy who's played at that level, who shared a lot of high level details, and who often shared a lot of mindset preparation stuff on how to prepare for where you at and where you want to go. And he treated me like a starter, even on the practice squad. Each week we would have preparation stuff. He made sure that I was engaged. He would often ask me questions and keep me prepared as if I was, you know, an active player at the moment. And that was something that I embraced. And that was something that I think kept me engaged. And so to get elevated and named a starter, I was ready. I was ready for it. I was jumping. Yeah. I was jumping to do it. And I think I walked in that stadium with the mindset that I might have a really good game. And nobody knows it. And honestly, nobody expects me to. You know, there may be a few guys on the team and a few coaches who knew. But from a national standpoint, from a opponent standpoint, I know, you know, some of the guys on the other team would take a look up and say, you know, they're starting a guy off the practice squad this week. You know, let's maybe go at them and do different things like that. But I knew I was ready for the challenge. And so when it came, man, I was just trying to soak it all up.
Now, it speaks to your resolve, man. You ended up leading the team in combined tackles that game, had a pass breakup versus Carson Palmer on a deep pass attempt. Y'all went to the playoffs that year. Unfortunately, lost to Seattle in a wild card game 10-9. But as the years progressed, you was always, you know, fighting, you know, to become that starter, end up being named the backup, got a chance to start games in 2016 and 2017. 2018, you started 9 games. And then 2019, you basically became the starter. Mm-hmm. And that's the same season where you ended the year tied in the lead for interceptions with Stephon Gilmore and Tre'Davious White, two dudes who known to go get the football.
Yep.
So this ain't no, it was a down year. This is Ant is a full-time starter. And the season he becomes a full-time starter, he's number 1 in the NFL in picks. And you playing against a dynamite safety that I always thought highly of. That I don't think he get a lot of love because of his skin color. Like being the black quarterback, you're a white defensive back, but that joker always been nice to me. You know what I'm saying? So how was it being a tan? Because y'all was basically like one of the best tandems in the NFL.
Man. Yeah, man. It was fun. It was fun. That dude a great teammate. From my time to working and coming up, he would drop little gems along the way. And so when we actually got to pair up, man, it was exciting to play next to a guy who was thinking what you was thinking.
Yeah, and we talking about Harrison Smith for the folks who don't know. We talking about Harrison Smith. Shout out to him.
Yeah, it was nice to have a guy who could think at that level, who could play at a high level like that. So some of the stuff we did was extremely fun. Playing in quarterbacks' heads with the disguises and the different things that we did, and understanding we both understood what our strengths and weaknesses were. And we could always look out for each other, based off of us knowing that, understanding I can take a risk here. Anthony got me over the top, or vice versa. And I think that just made it a lot of fun to be able to go out there, play the defense, play the game within the game, come back to the sideline and talk about the confusion of the quarterback, pre-snap or post-snap. It was fun. We were out there playing chess.
Yeah, man. And look, you playing in a division that got the bad man known as Aaron Rodgers. You playing him twice. Matt Ryan up there vying for MVPs and stuff. I think you picked Matt Ryan off twice that year. You had 6 picks, right?
I picked off.
Oh yeah, you know who you picked off that year. Who you picked off that year?
I picked off. I picked off Rodgers. I picked off Phillip Rivers. Drew Brees in the playoffs. And yeah, I picked off Matt Ryan twice to open the season.
You picked off the bad man known as Aaron Rodgers. You picked off Danggummit Phillip Rivers. Like that division won't like them quarterbacks not no slouch.
Yeah. I made sure I kept all those footballs.
You picked off Tom Brady before.
Yeah, I got Tom Brady. I got Brady.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope, man.
Cool little stuff.
Look, man. I played in the arena league, and when I went up against like the guys who were considered the GOAT quarterbacks, like I wanted to make sure I got them. You know what I'm saying? So when you got them, what was that like? Especially if you won the game.
Yeah. I think one of those ones where it's always different moments of the interceptions. Sometimes it's I fooled you, and sometimes it's you gave your guy opportunity, which gave me an opportunity. And so I think all of those kind of show up differently for me, like emotionally, like and how I felt about the play. And sometimes it's just the overthrow. Sometimes they give you some. So we'll take them all. Sometimes we'll take them all, but sometimes as a player, I try to be honest with myself, about what I'm able to do and what players are able to do. And now sometimes you got to give them their flowers for some of the throws that they're able to make. Yeah. And I've been fooled some too. So I won't sit here and make it seem like I did I was the only one tricking people, but I just understand and felt that it was a lot of fun to line up against those guys, and you two lock eyes pre-snap to try to figure out what you're thinking. And you're both looking there and you're understanding that you're both playing the game at a high level in terms of between the ears, which shows up on the field as well. And so that part was fun. Those are some of the things that I miss.
Anyone ever say anything? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, got you, or where you come from? Any little stories, little gamesmanship?
I mean, honestly, there's times in the game where nobody you don't say it verbally, but you give each other a look, as in though like I know your next move, and I'm just letting I know your next move. So it's whether you want to do that or not. You play those games with Aaron Rodgers. He has certain runs built in. If the run doesn't look good, he has different screens and bubbles designed off of it. And so those moments where you walk down to take it away. Even though you're supposed to be deep middle, but you're showing down a little bit, maybe making it look like man, and they check it and they just run the ball. Those are the moments where you just kind of smile between each other and gesture, and that's the great part of it.
Nah, that's dope, man. I love to hear stories like that. You get to relive it because it's a beautiful thing, man. It's just one of the things. And for fans don't know, like Ant is a really humble dude. So sometimes I'm gonna spice it up. I'm gonna size him up. Like you out there picking off some of the best that ever did it, bro. Like that's dope. Like you can really, you're a guy from Richmond, Virginia, and as you sit back and you reflect and you look back on your career, and we ain't done talking about it yet because I want to talk about your time in Philly. But you can really kind of just be like, man, when they bring up those names, like, bro, I really got him before. I got him before. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I mean, granted, they play so long. They play, 15, 20 years. So they've thrown 100 interceptions. So it could be a lot of individuals, right? But it ain't a lot of individuals, if you get what I'm saying. A lot of individuals don't play in the National Football League. And if they do, they don't play that long. You started multiple years. You led the league in a major statistical category. That should never go. When I was talking to Matt Schaub, and I told Matt, like, Matt, you got the second most passing yards in NFL history. I don't care what nobody think of you personally. They can think you trash. But I'm there. And that's an elusive club.
Yeah.
When they look at season leaders each year, Anthony Harris' name is right there in that great football league. But that's something, right? Like, I give you your flowers for it, bro. You really got it out the mud. Like, you were me a first day talent, but unfortunately, being that dog and playing through pain, like a lot of this is before people start making business decisions in college. If you not you, but somebody in college from a pedigree and was being, praised and saying, hey, he if it was I ain't saying it's gonna happen to Travis Hunter, but if that was Travis Hunter, like, hey Travis, you're gonna be a first rounder. Hey man, don't play through that. Go ahead and take care of that now. Shut it down. A lot of guys shut it down. And you didn't, and you don't make no qualms about it. Your time comes up in Minnesota, you get to Philly, and somebody that's familiar with you is playing safety in Philly. How was that playing alongside Rodney?
I mean, that was smooth. I think coming in, and he was coming off of an injury. For me, football has been great, but I think it's always been a little bit bigger than football with my approach. From playing and not making a business decision. That was because I was invested in being part of something, building something. And from, I guess a business decision standpoint, I probably could have made a decision that would have been a little bit more selfish.
Yep.
But from a day-to-day and how I live my life, that was something that I didn't want to do. But getting there with Rodney, having him, come back fighting from injury, I just remember trying to be a supporter to him, and trying to pay it back from his time supporting me at UVA, and just like, hey, bro, continue to attack the day. Don't worry about if the progression of how you're doing or isn't quite where, you think it should be now. Continue to think about the big picture, and continue to push through, continue to push forward. So that was a lot of fun. So, help him with that, to then get out there on the field, make plays with them, develop handshakes, to him making plays that, help me out. To one time, I think near the end of the season, when we kind of got things going a little bit, we're playing Washington, and I'm checking the tight end. He runs an over route. I undercut it, the ball's lifted, and Rodney picks it off. And so to have those moments, I think it was only satisfying because of, the nature and the relationship that we had from UVA to seeing him battle back through injury, and continue to play at a high level. I think that was excellent.
No doubt, man. And you there, Jalen Hurts was just coming to his own. You was 9-8 that season. just speak about the time you spent and seeing him mature into a starting quarterback and one of the front runners at that position.
Yeah, I think coming into that year, anytime you're in Philly, you got high expectations to go out there and win, compete, and play at a high level. But I think that was just like the start of things.
Yeah.
It was like, we have some pieces we got to continue to develop. But looking back, it wasn't quite the year that was following that, in terms of what the roster makeup was. And so everybody really just came in trying to grind, prove themselves. And so I still continue to follow Jalen Storer. I followed this since from college. Took a look at a lot of his adversity, and for me, myself, I just found myself having to root for a guy like that.
Yeah.
And seeing what he's been able to do, how he carries himself, how he handles himself, and to ultimately be part of that team, which maybe wasn't expected to win it all, but approach the day with a mindset of, we're gonna handle what we got to handle week in and week out. Look to make the playoffs, and then take it from one step from there.
How was Nick Sirianni as a head coach? Because I know how the perception of him from the media this past week, they see him getting into it with fans and things that nature. Everybody kind of kick you when you struggle. When you do well, you the greatest thing since sliced bread. But you played for him. How was he as a head coach and a person to you?
I thought being part of that organization, he was a good coach. We talked about a lot of details within the game. We talked about situational awareness, how we should handle certain plays that come up. Whether it's you see it now from offensive guy makes a catch, it might be questionable catch. To signaling and communication, we're going no huddle. Don't give them an opportunity to throw the challenge flag. All of those plays and the situations, as a player, we covered them. As a player, I couldn't sit back. I couldn't. There weren't many times where we came back and we could look and say, this is a situation that we didn't know about previously, or we didn't discuss how to handle it. Now there may be some things that we readjust, but as a player, the biggest thing that I want to do is go in knowing that, I feel prepared. And also carrying the notion that we're going to be aggressive, it's like we're going to be aggressive. So, there's some times where, you call a play and it doesn't work out, and people let the result of the play determine if that was a good play call or not. But that's not how I view the game, but everybody's perspective is different. But I mean, some of the things that he does, whether it's in the social media or not, that's part of his personality. I look at it as everything he's trying to do. He's trying to help the team win. He's pushing us to be better. And from a player standpoint, I just try to support guys like that. It's just like, if we in together as a team, I'm gonna ride with you. And that's just kind of how I viewed it.
Hey, go let her come on camera.
I was just about to say.
Yeah, you good. You can be on camera.
Gotta eat.
Hey, Ant-Man, I'm gonna get you up out of here. As y'all can see, daddy duty. Your last season in the NFL was 2022. So basically last year you had a year away from football. How was that transition then for you? Because a lot of times, man, when you've been doing something for decades, it's almost like we don't know what we can do, but just looking at the camera, I see what you've been doing.
Yeah.
How the transition been?
Man, it's been good, man. I've had a lot of great moments. Football, I've sacrificed a lot. Football has given me a lot. And so over the past year, I've just been trying to do a lot of learning, a lot of growth, trying to, continue to build legacy. And I think that's one thing that I'm big on is building legacy, not just within sports, but building something and being able to leave it behind. So got my daughter Haven here. She just turned 1 back in September. But she's gave me like a whole newfound love, a whole new passion for her continued growth and development, stabilizing her future, and just being present, from trying to be the number one safety to trying to be the number one dad. that's been on my list. So I really enjoyed showing up for her. We took the dog for a walk yesterday, and because she sees walking now, and she looks down and she looks up at me, and I can't even explain the feeling of what it feels like to have somebody that you care for, a little mini you, that looks up at you with the biggest eyes.
Like she doing now.
It's like you a real superhero. And I think that might be more satisfying than some of the things that I've been able to accomplish on the field. And so I take big pride in that. From a business standpoint, I've been looking to continue to grow, doing some other things in real estate, and some other avenues. And so that's what it's been about, spending time with my family, being there, being supportive, but also aiding and helping other guys on that journey right now as well.
Yeah, man. So look, fans, ain't gonna be a part of the show. I'm gonna bring him on periodically. You want to break down some games and talk about the current program. So I'm definitely excited about that. I've kept him enough. He got to go feed his beautiful little daughter, but we appreciate the time he spent with us. We love you, bro. Proud of you. I can't say enough about how proud I am for you, not just on the field, but off the field as a man. Our relationship we always had from day one, just always been just a genuine guy. I talked to Coley a lot, and I told Coley I was gonna tell him. He said
That's
to say what's up. Yeah, that's so we always talk about you and rave about you, bro. And the next time we get you in the show, I'm gonna talk about this fashion that you be into, because my buddy is Tyrod Taylor, and he loves fashion as well. So that's gonna be fun, man. So I'm glad to have you on future episodes, man. I know the UVA fans are definitely glad to hear about your career and what you're doing in your endeavors right now, bro. So I ain't gonna talk your head off anymore. Is there anything you want to say to the fans before I let you close the show and we get up out of here?
Man, I dropped the video last week.
Before the game. Yeah.
Before the game.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not gonna let the result of the game change how I feel.
I'll get you a solo.
About what
man.
I said.
Give you the solo, man.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let the result of 1 week change how I feel what I said. Continue to go support the Wahoos, and Wahoo Wah, Wahoo Wah. I can't say it enough. Let's go Hoos.
There you go, man. From former All-American, former NFL leader in interceptions, Anthony Harris, straight out of Richmond, VA 804. Homegrown. Appreciate you, dog.
Appreciate you.